Where would you like to start?
Okay, well, with all good pieces of legislation, the important thing to look at first really is the definitions. And one of the useful aspects of this act is that it now provides a statutory definition of mediation. Okay, and it's worth just actually reading that definition out, which is contained in section 2, subsection 1. And that is that mediation is a facilitative and voluntary process in which the parties to a dispute, with the assistance of a mediator, attempt to reach a mutually acceptable agreement to resolve the dispute. Okay, and since the mediator is made reference to in that definition, it's also worthwhile looking at how mediator is defined. And that is defined as a person appointed under an agreement to mediate, to assist the parties to the agreement to reach a mutually acceptable agreement to resolve the dispute, the subject of the agreement. Lots of focus on the word agreement in that definition.
Certainly is. And is there anything unusual in these definitions?
Perhaps not unusual, but it's worth looking at the definition of mediation and how it puts the emphasis on the facilitative nature of the process and the voluntary nature of the process. And I suppose I'd be asking you to bear this in mind at this juncture, because as we go through the provisions of the Act, we'll meet a couple of sections and a couple of provisions that are not 100% in keeping with what we would traditionally see as facilitative and voluntary. So bear that in mind as we go through the Act. The other thing that's interesting, I suppose, is that the definition of the mediator and how the emphasis is placed on the agreement to mediate as the mechanism by which the mediator is engaged in the mediation process. So it doesn't make reference to any particular skills or training that a mediator has to have, but instead provides that this person has to be appointed under an agreement to mediate. So it's not a definition of mediator I've seen before. And you'll see again, as we come to the provisions around the agreement to mediate, why this is given such emphasis.
Okay, so we should take note of the two terms, facilitative and voluntary. I'm assuming then there are no definitions of facilitative and voluntary in the Act.
I know, that would be too easy.
Okay, all right.